I interviewed over 1,000 people at Amazon. We hired a lot of people in my 15 plus years there.
If you can get somebody emotionally invested in something, that is far more competent than just someone who believes in the mechanics of it.
So I'm giving a presentation to Jeff Bezos. Hire Midwesterners and Canadians. The world needs more middle children. Pizza and beer goes a long way to building trust.
Do you want to introduce the baseball at some convenient point, or do you want me to ask about it?
And I think for young guys, thinking in terms of small business, I don't know if they've counted the cost.
Okay. Forged in Idaho. Again.
Oh, hey, we're rolling. Hey, why don't we just pray before we start?
Let's do that.
Yeah.
God, thank you for Stefan. Thank you for this time. Thank you for the opportunity that we have to converse about your world, about teams, about how you've made them, about how you've revealed yourself to us through the world and through each other. Help us to have fruitful conversation that edifies each other and the world that watches and points it all back to you. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Okay, Forged in Idaho.
Forged in Idaho.
I'm here with Stefan Haney. So your time as a business guy involved a lot of time with Amazon. That would be the thing that most people would recognize in your work history. And you're a systems guy, an efficiency guy. And I'm really excited to talk to you today because one of the things that you have talked about is the need for members of a team to ask why we do what we do. And we are at the cusp of a generation, or right in the middle of a upcoming generation, who is known predominantly for constantly asking why we do what we do. So what do you have to offer as far as business owners and young men coming into the trades, as far as how important that is and how to do it well?
Well, it's a broad open-ended question, so it's like an invitation, tell stories, and go. So thank you, and it's great. I'm glad for the opportunity to be here. I'm in the third or fourth quarter of my career. It's great, and God has given me a lot of wonderful places to be. But just to start, like my first job. Well, first job that wasn't my first business. My first job was picking beans on a farm, working for a family farmer who was also a guidance counselor during the school year, and just the physicality or the balance of physicality at work. And that was something I could do. So that's not that hard to figure out. But then worked at a bike shop, and it's a small business, and we went from having one store to 3 stores, and you're close to everything. You're a generalist, and you really see where the money flows. Then I jumped from that. I went to Western Michigan University and got a job at Accenture in this global consulting firm. But those lessons of, no, it's just about we got to pick the beans, we got to get them packed, we got to get them on the stand before 10 a.m. Or, hey, there's 3 of us in the bike shop and we've got to get through all these repairs and there's disruptions because customers feel like a disruption. Oh, yeah, they're not. Those lessons carried on through Accenture, through startups or other businesses I've worked at, and then at Amazon. Part of why Amazon is memorable is it's going to go down in business history for a lot of reasons, but some of it's the invention. And so how do you hire people, or how do you bring people that they haven't done it before because we're doing things that people haven't done before? And that curiosity and working backwards from I'm providing a service to customers. So what does the customer need and how do I learn it? Well, I'm going to have to go learn. I'm going to have to go figure out. And both in the small business and even at Amazon, I never had enough people or enough time to do all the things that were on my mind to do, what I think customers needed. And so for me, it was always the small business owners I've helped, I've worked with to find efficiency or to find how do they organize their people as their business grows and changes is about curiosity, and we're figuring stuff out. So I've had to figure stuff out. I didn't go to some, really elite college. I don't have a degree in software, but I managed a lot of software engineers. I work a lot with technology. So I've always had to figure things out and learn, and wherever I can share my learnings with other people, if that gives them a fast forward, or if I can share them how to learn or how to figure something out, that can give people a fast forward. And I love doing that.
Where, your eagerness to figure things out, like how far can you trace that back? Like what did that look like as a young man picking beans or even earlier?
Yeah. Shoot, I loved. Always had Legos, but when I was a kid, like Legos didn't come with all these fancy kits, and here's the instructions. It's like I got a bucket of Legos that my uncles had. It's like, all right, what am I going to do with this, right? Or how does it work if I actually, try to make it work? Or some of it's just necessity. I was in a situation, if I wanted a car, I had to pay for my car. And so when you buy your first car for $400, it's a car that's going to need fixed. And I didn't have YouTube, right? So I've been like pre-LinkedIn, pre-YouTube. There's these things that make things a lot easier for people. How do you fix a clutch in a 1980 Dodge Omni? And there's no Google, there's no whatever. You just got to figure it out.
Yeah.
Necessity matters. But sometimes it's also the balance of, that also is a very great focuser, right? That's my car. That's how I'm getting to school. I need to get to school because my mom is working and there's no ride. So I got to figure it out. And so I don't have the luxury of like, oh, I could go figure out this problem or that problem. No, I got to figure out how to fix the clutch and how do I replace it.
Did you literally do that all without anything, or did you have to read a Hayes manual? Or I mean,
yeah. So I'm always been I wasn't homeschooled, but we've homeschooled for part of it, and I love that. What I've seen in many homeschoolers is like, what is even the problem? Like, what's the problem we're trying to solve? And that's applied into business. I'll come back to that in a second. So yeah, I went and found a Hayes manual. I went and found somebody who did it before, or actually the person that helped me was another teenager. He hadn't done my clutch before, but he had an attitude of like, let's just get in and try it. Mm-hmm. And so having that personality complement to, I'm like, I'm nervous about it. He's like, no, it's just bolts. We'll take it apart. Mm-hmm. Both of those things I would say, my first job at Amazon was called a business analyst. And I described that as like, it's your job to write the math word problem and then go get the data and solve for it. But it's important to figure out the problem so that you're both efficient and also what data do I need? And then that same, like getting people's complement of it's just a machine. If it's software, it's just a machine. And the problem is more, I probably don't understand it and I don't need to fear it. I need to respect it, but I don't need to fear it. So now if I've got a tractor or whatever, now I can just go to YouTube, but I need to do an oil change on my John Deere tractor. All right, it screws and take it apart, and can I put it back together? And what's the worst that can happen?
It's also that friend too. Like how crucial is that guy who's like, let's just do this. You and me, let's try it.
From teams and whatever, very few things in life are done alone. And it's why my wife and I'll say sometimes like the world needs more middle children, because you see in your kids, just personality differences in your kids and the complements. Most businesses, startup businesses, you can go look this up, but the ratio of failures from a single founder, 2 founders or 3 founders is significant on a curve. Nobody does things very few people do things fully successfully alone. Mm-hmm. So finding that complement, not only of skills, but also that complement of attitudes has been critical for me as I build my teams at work. We need lots of different perspectives, but also different attitudes.
Yeah, I remember, when I look through my work history of, you'd start a job, you're always looking for, okay, who's the first person that's going to accept me and invest in me?
Yeah.
And when that connection is made, it's like 50% of your worries dissipate, and the learning that you can pursue is vastly increased.
Yes.
How do you spot the right kind of person like that?
I've got podcasts on hiring and stuff on the internet, and I'll joke like hire Midwesterners and Canadians, and farm kids and military, because these are people who get to work. First of all, they think about the value. Am I blessing the customer? Am I doing something for someone else that's a service they'll appreciate? Because that's the fundamental business, is the law of equal exchange. I'm doing something that you find valuable. You're going to give me something for it. Could be money, barter, whatever. So finding those people who, first off, like we have to be aligned on mission. Are we doing something for the customer? Are we doing it for ourselves? And different businesses and different needs at different time need different kinds of people. So do you even know the makeup of what you're doing and what you're aligned on? So work is important to me and valuable work. And I make that joke because I grew up in the Midwest and you had to shovel the driveway before you went to school. You just didn't go to school. So you had to do the work before you went to work. And that's an important thing to me. People who are like, hey, we're going to get work done. And it has a purpose. I don't want people who are going to spin a wheel for process without purpose. I want them to know the purpose of what they're doing and for whom. So I look for what are the patterns of behavior that I can see in their life as signals that will tell me what are they able to transfer? Because very rarely am I hiring someone who, especially particularly at Amazon, who's done what we do. So I can't say, oh, you did it before, you can do it here. And I have to look for those patterns of behavior because also people are going to be under stress, and under stress people will default to different kinds of behavior. So I use the questions or some of the principles from personality tests like Myers-Briggs while I use, there's a lot of potential ditches with personality tests, but I like that one because it really focuses on patterns of behavior around 4 core questions. And if I can understand how under stress people prefer to deal, introverts, extroverts, that's going to tell me how we should communicate. Should we have more group team meetings, or should we maybe write more documents and let decisions take 2 days so people can sleep on it? How do people deal with change? How do people deal with data and facts in a different way? And neither is necessarily wrong, but it tells me the proclivity of the people to know for the function that we're hiring for, and for that person I'm hiring for. Do they focus on getting stuff done and trying stuff versus just thinking about stuff? And then what are the behavior evidences I can look at? I'm only half joking when I say I'll hire Midwestern Canadians because they shovel snow before they get to work. And they're going to just dig in and do the work.
Yeah. It's harshness of conditions is really a definer for really anything. One of the things I'm always talking about tradesmen is, the reason I have so much respect for them is they have to deal with the wet clothes, the spring, fall rains, those sorts of things are the kind of people that I just really like hanging around. Like, I really like blue collar workers. Those are my people. And, you can find those kinds of people anywhere. But how do you make them? Like, can you make them, or do they really have to be formed as a child that way?
So you're talking a little bit mental toughness and grit.
Yep.
To some degree. And I think we had enough. I interviewed over 1,000 people at Amazon. We hired a lot of people in my 15 plus years there. And Amazon is a pretty behavior-based, tested against what Amazon had defined as their culture, their Amazon leadership principles. So every job interview was basically a performance review against Amazon principles from all your work history. So after a time, we had enough data on the Amazon principles. We wanted to ask the question, like, what can we teach versus what do people have to just come in with? Like, we can nurture it, but we can't create it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's an important question of, you can look for someone. So I would look for signals, right? Maybe it's outdoor people, or maybe it's like, no, athletes. What kind of athlete were there? Did they get up at 5 and do their workout? Blake Corum from the University of Michigan would do his workout. Did they do extra? He'd go do his workout in the morning, got an extra coach, went to the team workout, and then he did extra. And he helped his teammates because he would watch film not only for him, but for his direct core teammates, maybe for his linemen. Well, that's a signal of, an evidence that maybe this person translate over. I don't know on the wet clothes thing. Do you just have to nurture it, but people have it, or can we train for it? But I think also in hiring and talking with some other folks as well, was like, to the degree Amazon had one way of hiring that worked well for them, because every hire was a high risk, and so they put a long bar and a lot of evidence, and then they try to get you to show your work. So we'd have people code in an interview, or we'd have business people do a problem or bring something written in, because people can talk, but I want to see what they do. Mm-hmm. And so to the degree I can layer in, show me, and put people under stress to actually see the behaviors. It's like, yeah, we're going to hire you on a trial basis. My bike shop job, like, we're going to hire for 30 days and see how it goes. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up moving into a different slot. Then, like, we're going to have you do some of this, but actually we see some other things you're good at, and we're going to have you move it over here. and create value there. So yeah, looking for evidence in other areas that are transferable, and then also like what degree can you get them to show you and do it with you.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how many times I think I have one kind of an employee and then they turn out to be a totally different kind of fit.
Yeah.
And it is the proof in the pudding when you see the metal, actually meet the meat. But what about the aspect of performing under stress? Some people don't ever have to perform under stress, or should they?
Well, I don't know if we always know when people are performing under stress, right? There's this like work-life balance concept thing that's out there. And I'm like, even guys who are good at compartmentalizing, like if you've got some tough stuff going on at home or you've had tough stuff in your life, like you're still bringing that with you. You're thinking about it, and accidents can happen that way too. So I don't think we always know when people are under stress, or if you ask someone to do something they haven't done before, that's even a little bit of stress. In interviewing, like that may have just been an hour in your calendar, but this person is thinking about moving their whole family across the country. This is going to be a life pivot point for them. And recognizing that in the process, like there's stress that's occurring. So, stress is not a yes or no. It's not a light switch. It's a continuum. And it may be different sources, not directly related. So sometimes the easiest thing under stress is I want you to do this thing in half the time you've done it before. And you can introduce some artificial stress. Or I would look at failure points within my team and go, you know what, we need to drill. We need to actually run an experiment and drill. And I need to create artificial conditions so that when the real stress occurs. So I would just turn off a software service and not tell anybody. And see what alarms went off, see how people responded, so that I can create stress under a safe environment to find out where are the failure points. How did we test the team, and get proud of the team and kind of instill pride in the team of being able to come periodically through these stress points.
What about like you're a low end worker and you want to test yourself? You want to see if you've got what it takes. What does that look like?
Well, I'll go back to mine. I was a pretty small kid. I grew after high school. I went to a small Christian basketball high school. It was all about going, it was like little mini Hoosiers. Everybody came to practices and there's generations. And I'm like 5'4", 5'5", still singing soprano, believe it or not, in 10th grade. My voice dropped a little bit since then. I'm like, I'm not going to make baseball or basketball team. Like, that's not my jam. But it created some like, what can I do that is good, right? Well, I could be the basketball manager, right? We played Fight 21 lunch. I'm like, I have to learn how to rebound, so only the short guy's going to get the ball. But carrying that over to the bike shop, I'm now the short 14-year-old kid, working with college students and adults, and we're selling $500,000 bikes in a pretty frugal and lower income community. And I'm like, I'm going to find one thing that I can do better. First, I'm going to take it apart. Like, I'm going to get really good at selling bike racks, things to put your bike in car. Nobody else on the team is really thinking about it. I can do something that contributes to the team. And then I got that down. Now what else is the next thing I can take on that nobody else is really paying attention to that I can. So I put that on myself. Like, what can I do to contribute to the team that nobody else is doing? And then I started like, no, I want to be the best sales guy. Like, I want to be the 16-year-old who's outselling everybody on the floor. If I'm here, like they want me to be the number one guy. But I built up to that, and I'd put that stress on myself to kind of compete at work in a way. I think some of that comes on like, no, you got to do it yourself. Like start with what you achieve and what can you be the best at within this team. It's not necessarily better than everybody else. It could be the thing that nobody else is paying attention to. But you really want to work on mastering it. And that carried through, I've always had some amount of imposter syndrome. Like, how did I get to Amazon? Like, I don't have an Ivy League degree, right? I don't know if my SAT score is high enough. And other people probably go, yeah, we don't know how I got here either. But, by showing basic stuff, that grandpa taught me, show up, leave it better than you found it, engage and try to contribute to the team. And the people with the same, logo on the paycheck are not your enemies. So when you have conflict, like figure out how to work within that. Those things end up contributing more work that anybody can do. And where you went to school, by the way, talking about hiring, there's a lot of people that make mistakes by looking at proxy information. Like, oh, they went to this school, they must be great.
Yeah.
It's
I think
like,
that one's over.
No, test.
Yeah.
Test the person. Put them under stress, compete, contribute.
How much, when you talk about like your history there, like how much of it was just a refusal to be fearful and just have nerve?
I think I mentioned to you, I've recently read the book Failure of Nerve, which is an old book, and I love old books because they've stood the test of time if there's some reading. And, he talks about things, and I'll I think about with my sons who were all in their teens, and I think about, the teens and 20s people that I mentor or grew at Amazon and others. That like willingness to try things and freedom to fail is a really big deal. Now I had some of those, like I had no choice. Like you got to fix your car. You got to shovel your driveway. But sometimes like I did, like why do people climb mountains? Because why did I ride my bike across the country by myself? Yeah, I don't know. Thought it'd be fun. That fear and failure of nerve talks with that willingness to do something that other people haven't done and learn from it is a really big deal. And I find, particularly in the teens and 20s, these young men often aren't thinking big enough and willing, like, I'll tell them, like, you are one of the richest people in the world and you're the richest you'll ever be in your life right now. And they look at me like, have you seen my bank account? And I'm like, no, you're thinking wrong.
Yeah.
You have an 18-year-old body that is amazingly strong. You can work 19 hours a day, 4 days in a row, and you won't need a month to recover. For most of us, you don't have all these dependencies of a mortgage or dependents because you're probably not married yet. Depending on you, you can take risks. Your risk budget, because what's the worst going to happen?
Yeah.
Right? You'll have to ask mom and dad to live in the basement for a little bit. You have to set up a tent in the backyard. Okay. Like you have, and then they also, it's God's world and it's all God's money. And so I'll also think about sometimes like, you're in a qualification period. So your game plan in your 20s are how many skills and people and things can I learn and do, and how many skills can I try and develop? That's different than what your 30s and 40s look like. So, they often don't have a big enough picture of God, of like, hey, think bigger.
Yeah.
Right. You're doing this paper for class
Or
because somebody
idolize themselves.
Oh yeah. I'm
Too
going
afraid
from
to
like,
fail.
yeah, what's your objective? Right. Well, if I do this, like people are going to make fun of me. Well, go reread and put up, Teddy Roosevelt's Man in the Arena speech and read it every week. And then ask yourself, like, what are you doing for others and for the world around you that would be awesome if God gave you the opportunity to do it? And then if God asks me the opportunity, what do you need to do to qualify it? Right? So Scripture says, like, have you asked? And God gives his children everything that's good for them and better than what they often ask for. So have you asked for something big? And if it's no, if God hasn't given it to you, maybe it's because you're not qualified for it yet. Right. So then you ask God, like, what do I need to do to qualify? Right? Go read some books, go talk to some people who've done it before, look at a different way, and go try bigger.
It's almost too like, this isn't the only metric to look at by far, but if you're not despised for something, you're impotent. Like you have to look at, do you have some enemies and what you think? If you're not that kind of guy, then apparently you don't take a stand on anything because it's just a necessary piece of driving hard for something.
Yeah, well, let's tie that back for a minute. We talked about personalities and who you hire, and so I think there's this thing in your high school, like I applied to college, I didn't get in. Oh, it must be something about me. Or I applied to this job and I didn't get it. It must be something about me. And there may be some truth in that. But, when I saw enough from all the hiring I did at Amazon, like sometimes it was just the wrong time. Had nothing to do with you. It was just the wrong time. Our company couldn't afford an extra hire. We couldn't afford you. The risks associated with you were different than what we could afford to absorb. And then also I learned too, like there are certain leaders even names. I'm like, no, I don't want to work for that person. Not because they're bad, not because, but I know from observing their leadership style and personality makeup, that will cause tension for me, that I won't actually be able to work at my best or do the things I want to do about learning or other things. I'm going to look for other leaders. And I think in your teens and 20s, you're still developing your sense of self. Like you still want lots of approval, or you still have this mindset of like, you're either good enough or not all the time. It's like, no, it's about fit. And how were you made and how are you wired and how can don't worry about it. Like I would love to reward people for failure more. Like, did you try something? What have you tried recently that you failed at? And that's actually one of my every questions. Like, what have you failed at in the last 2 years? And, what did you learn from it? How would you do it differently? Who did you talk to? How did you recognize you failed? And we kind of just unpack the whole thing. Because man, if you've done everything in your 18s and 20s that you're going to do for the rest of your life, like, wow, that's kind of boring. Yeah. Yeah. The world's going to be a different place and you're going to be confronted with things that are hard to do and just try it.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's going to experience setbacks, failure, frustrations. I remember, one of the coolest things I ever saw as a young firefighter was one veteran captain walking up to a veteran battalion chief and the world's burning down. And one said to the other, "What can I do for you today?"
Yeah.
And it was like the middle of the night. It was just like so much swagger, so much peace in the midst of chaos.
Yeah.
And, just that is what cemented it for me. It's like, I want to be like that guy. And apparently the way I get to be like that guy is you're just going to have to be here a long time or do a lot. And see a lot of failure, because that's all it is witnessing that failure. And I think our society there's so much importance placed on self that's affected our ability to actually suffer failure, because it's an assault to self.
Yeah. I've been blessed to be in the room with people that are going to be in history books. And it's just the way my walk has been now. I think there's Proverbs. Use your Bible book for a minute. Regular read like, hey, man who excels his work will stand before kings. Like, and so I'm giving a presentation to Jeff Bezos or one of his reports, and these guys make hundreds of millions of dollars, from Jeff's case billions of dollars, and we're going to have a conversation. And there was a time when Jeff took one of the things I did and said, "Wow, that's really smart." I'm like, "Yay, Jeff Bezos called me smart." And 2 weeks later, one of the things that someone on my team did, that I hadn't trained and drilled correctly, like Jeff sends a note to everybody. There's this big tech distribution list of like, this is a really dumb idea. I'm like, oh, yeah, everybody I'd potentially worked for at Amazon just saw me, Jeff called me a dumb idea. But when I talk about self and pride in self, I've always had this little reminder quote that I saw at some point, or some older person told me, at some point, which is, it's a little joke, like the flood consultant thinks how cool he is and gets up in heaven to give his speech, and he sees Moses and Noah out in the audience. There's always somebody who's got more. There's always somebody who's done more. And so you should be satisfied with good work, and you should be proud of good work that you do. But if it's building this, like, I'm better than everybody else, like, in the course of history, you're probably going to be stack ranked, not in the top 1,000. It's just not going to be there. I hate to break it to you. Most of us are not going to have a role in that way. But don't confuse. So on the one hand, there's the ditch of like, look how cool I am. I think about with our sports here. There's 1.9 million people in Idaho. If we win a state championship, yay, that's cool. And that's going to reflect the work that people put in. But that's like the City League championship in Chicago or Seattle. You're like, and so, like, let's not get too high and mighty, but let's also not fall in the ditch of like, oh, everything I do is useless. Like, all work is a blessing. My grandma used to just tell me, like, all education is useful. You just don't know how or when.
Well, let's talk about teams. How does a young person coming into a team, you talked about you had to find a spot to be useful.
Yeah.
What other aspects to being in a team are super important to drill home for young people?
One of the, so first off, like, am I leaving it better than I found it? Like, am I being a good teammate? Am I being a good team member? And so I talked about that, right? Did you show up? My grandpa was always the Lombardi rule: 14 minutes early is 1 minute late, because your brain better catch up with your body. Am I, but then I think about you're growing, especially, that teen to 20 person is like, this isn't the place they're probably going to stay if they're on like, I'm having a bigger year every year or a different year every year than I did before. So knowing there's roles in the teams, like, how can I help take the load? And, am I looking for what I'm getting, or am I recognizing I don't have the full perspective? So can I ask my boss, like, what else can I do? Can I take any load off you? And that's going to open up opportunities for me. If I've already paid the table stakes of doing my job really well, now can I look for ways to help the overall enterprise and help so I paid my table stakes, and now I can go, Brad, what else can I do to help Forged? What can I take off your plate so you don't have to worry about it anymore? Right? Do you want those kind of people here?
Oh, man. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What else can I do? And some of it's carrying water. So we talk a lot about books. Captain's Class is, I think, I love sports teams, love sports movies, this guy went and did the database, like, what makes the most impactful sports dynasties of all time. And it's in the book. It's in the title, Captain's Class. And then he challenges his assumptions about what a good captain is. Michael Jordan does not make that top 18. And some of it gets into, and he brings out these attributes of what makes a good captain. And it's really some of just the best teammates. I'm carrying water. I lead the team in assists. I lead the team in encouragement and attitude. How many people that went under stress? It's raining. The battery's not working. Somebody forgot to put gas in the truck.
Mm-hmm.
What's the attitude and spirit
Yeah.
of the place? Like, is it laughter and earnest laughter? Like, yeah, we do have to solve these problems. We can't ignore it and totally make fun of ourselves.
Yeah.
Or is it finger pointing?
Right.
Right. And so if I can kind of pick those three things of you can capture your character, your spirit, and export that fruit to others, that's where I start to think. And so on my teams, I would look for, we're not trying to get 7 of the same people. We're trying to get a unit.
Mm-hmm.
And do people understand the roles of the unit? Do people understand our mission? This is for a time. So every 6 months, every year, do we understand where we are in time, and help people understand the bigger picture so that I'm easy to follow, and they understand, like, how this goes both ways. I do want to benefit them. So how does this benefit to them, and how do they benefit each other? But yeah, if I can kind of capture that, that's, like, hey. And so I would do things also on my team, like, there's time to play together. Like, trust is built, and you can go to Patrick Lencioni's, like, 5 dysfunctions of the team. He talks about you have to know each other's people, and pizza and beer goes a long way to building trust. On any team, because we're whole people. So we're not just like, oh, I need to count this person as a cog to get the 2x4s from here to there. Like, hey, that's a person, and they're made in God's image, and they're valuable. And so what else is going on with them? Like, that factors in just kind of the underlying. So yeah, I think about my teams of, like, how do I get the best out of that grain of wood? And how can they help each other? And then for the next time, whether that's 6 months or a year, how are they going to get from here to there? Thinking ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the most profound things of a team that's like that, that's joyful, that's there's communication up and down, and people every level can ask is, how can I help the team, is you've essentially made every single member of the team influential.
Yeah. Right. Can I make everybody around here better than they are with me than how they'll be without me?
Yeah. And I mean, as a young person, that's like the first thing you're trying to find is, can I be valuable? Yeah. I'm wondering if I'm valuable. Can I be valuable? And the joy, I mean, we're always saying we joyfully build for the glory of God, right? Because that fixes everything. And you could say you're building for the glory of God, but I mean, that's easy to say until your heart's not in it. And then
And some days you wake up and you're not going to feel like your heart's in it.
yeah. But the joy, somebody's got to tell the team to be joyful.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might be the young guy.
Yeah. Or just show them. It's fun.
Yeah.
There's a quote in sports movie Invincible. So that's Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
And coach is Dick Vermeil, who shows up later. So Invincible's, the Philadelphia bartender who ends up, in real life doing 3 years with the Eagles. And he gives his motivational speech is, I believe a team with character and heart will beat a team with, superior talent. You can do it. So he shows up in another movie sports movie about character. You know where Dick Vermeil shows up again? 30 years later.
Where?
American Underdog.
Okay.
So Dick Vermeil, pulled the invincible guy on the team, and then 30 years later, he's the one that and it's fun because he has to go as a leader. It's a great leader example. He heard everybody from his staff, and he went with his conviction and said, "No, I want that guy on my team." And we all know what happened with Kurt Warner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing. The ability to just discard all the counsel and choose what's right. I mean, that definitely is the defining separation of a leader.
Yeah.
How does that get honed? I mean, every young kid's able to do that. And then we blunt the edge of it by finally getting them to go along with the team. But then somehow that person has to rise to the top because they never totally lose it. That's a tough place. That's a tough path to negotiate.
Man, I don't know if I have a good answer to that question.
I know.
I have examples and I have things I think about with that question, right? So one, and maybe this applies to young guys too, in the Invincible movie, do you remember why or what was a pivotal point in him? There were two things that were a pivotal point in him bringing on that guy in the Philadelphia Eagles.
They needed the crowd to love the players again.
Yeah. That was the situation.
They needed somebody from Philadelphia to be on the team.
So the movie sets two things in his decision. One is he's looking the film and his wife and kids come in. And she asks him a question do you remember what you used to tell the kids back at high school, college when you're coaching, characters exposed when you're met with it? And he's like, yeah, and she's like, I'm talking about you. And so, a lot of young guys aren't getting married very fast. Right. And most people will get married in their life. It's a lot of promises and statements about that. And so I think that's one, that's an immediate counsel, right? If you have a wife, all the promises, the value and the counsel of a wife, is one thing that hones it at all levels, right? My success is as much or mostly driven by the insights that my wife is able to bring on whether it's the interpersonal interactions or just sometimes gut feel. And I'm okay, I don't see it, but I'm going to go with it. I'll probably do that more. The second piece in that movie was the character of the guy himself. He did not think he earned or deserved a place on the Eagles. Yeah. Right. He comes in, and I don't know if Dick Vermeil was going to give him a slot or not, but he's just the whole interaction was always Coach, how you doing? We haven't talked to him. It's how you doing, Coach? Mm-hmm. Right. He cared more about Dick, the way they portrayed the scene. And then he's well, thanks for the opportunity. Right. And slides the playbook back. Right. And you can see they captured the movie. He's you know what? I need heart. And that guy is humble and heart. And why don't you keep that for a while? Right. And I think that gets to some of your question of how do you hone that, use counsel, and look for that help meet, at the right time. And then, just be super coachable. Right. I'm not arrived. I've still got so much to learn. I can still get better. And I can't do the things I could do when I was 30. So, it's not like we always keep getting better. I got to go back. I got to keep working out. I got to keep working on my data skills, partly because GPT is a new world and I got to keep learning. So that learning doesn't stop. And then having that counsel team to give you feedback on your character or give you hints, I think is huge as a young man. Like, go do that. Like, I think there's some young men like, I got to go land it and then I'm going to go get a wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let's keep talking
Let's
about
do a
wives.
Bible study on that and show me where the Bible tells me that's the right path to go.
Right. Yeah. I mean, wives, like we've talked on this show before, how important the question is, how was your day? When you walk in the door, like, how important is that question to answer well and carefully and openly?
It's hard, right? Because I've just been at work competing. I've been in the cage match. I've had to be, my brain is tired. I've been thinking about, algorithms and how different data flow is going to go. I've been thinking about team members, and I have not done well over 3 decades. Being married for 24 years now. I'm still working on getting that question better. But it's the one I can answer it better, or when I'm prepared to walk in the door, because it's not like I was physically separate, but my wife and I are partners. She's at work with me, either statements in my head or, the fact that she's taking care of things enables me to be here, but also she's kind of invested in my success. So did I invite her in? How was your day? I usually find like that's a hard question for me, and I have to kind of invite a conversation. Go, what do you want to hear about my day? Do you want to hear, is it a good time? Do we have a glass of wine? Challenges? Or, we would call it the wee bitching hour, because that, like, dad's coming home. I don't know if the devil's attacking right then, but the kids are going nuts. They're hungry. I'm hangry. Right? So sometimes, like, hey, I'll tell you, we got to talk more later, because she needs respite, because she's in the thick of it. Especially in those like fog of war years when the kids are all under 6.
Yeah.
And so I have to be ready to take on that job. So there's some days I do better than others, but it's a super important question.
Yeah. I mean, they're not there to hear your bitching. They're there to help.
Right.
Like, that's, I think, the biggest thing that I've had to really lean into is like, okay, I've never not answered this question well and not received a ton of help.
Right. Yeah.
Enormous help. Wisdom.
Yeah. I'll have, I know that I'm wired a certain way. Maybe I'm almost like a Star Trek droid kind of stuff. I'm focused on the goal. People better come along with me. And I don't think enough about, do people want to come with me, or what's going on with them? And my wife is wired differently. She's thinking about, well, is that going to make that person nervous? Are they afraid of failure? Are they having a difficult time interacting with that kind of person? I'm like, I have not looked at it through that vantage point at all. We got a job to get done. Let's go. And especially in a world where I maybe work with both men and women, or just, broad or cultures, with people from around the world at Amazon that are coming from a different lens. Having my wife's view on it is just like, Maverick and Goose. I got someone who can be looking around and seeing all the things, or the things that might sideswipe me, that I'm missing.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been raised with this concept of warfare kind of at the back of everything that's my lens through which I view the world.
What are you talking about? You love a Tom Clancy novel,
Yeah.
right? Cold
Absolutely.
War, Hunt for Red October, let's go.
Yeah, everything's warfare and everything's through that lens. And the hard thing to connect then is people are full of emotion and personalities. And that's kind of what you're speaking to, is your wife's ability to connect to what's going on in those emotions. And that's a really important thing for us as men, because, man, you want to talk about an effective person, emotions like the most critical last 10%. If you can get somebody emotionally invested in something, that is far more competent than just someone who believes in the mechanics of it.
So, I might tie back to 2 things. One, I've mentioned a couple times, there's a statement in this Failure of Nerd book about leadership, and he suggests that the key role of a leader is to manage anxiety within the organization. Well, it's a family, government, et cetera. And it just sets me on my back to go, anxiety? Like, because now we're in the emotional realm,
Yep.
right? And it's like, and he makes some fun of data, not in a way that, devalues like reality. Data is a description of fact. We have to remember it's a description of fact. Lies, damn lies, statistics. But, when I think about that for a bit and getting into, there's a ditch of like, oh, there's no emotions. We're not going to be emotion stoic or whatever, or just like focus on the data. Well, that just kind of forces us to ignore people.
Yeah.
And ignore relationships or
Story.
or
Spock.
Right.
He was not a good leader.
No. And yeah, you sit in Star Trek and you go, why they fall? I'm like, everybody loves Jean-Luc Picard, right? Maybe it's the bald head. But, and so if I'm managing anxiety and thinking about how do I get, first of all, my wife, she's a huge help to me because that's a big, I'll talk about double down on your strengths and mitigate your weaknesses. So I know it's a weakness area. I need something to mitigate it. And so that's part of my team. But that second part of managing anxiety and the emotions, her statement, like I focus on data, not drama. It's like, well, we're serving customers and there's when I'm shopping, I thought a lot about Amazon customer delight. Shopping is fun, right? Especially you see the ladies in my house will go shopping. I don't know if it's a girl thing or not, but man, it's half of it is just the fun. It's the treasure hunt or like the bags. And,
I think this is common.
yeah. Okay. So, I'm like, how do you do that online? How do we make delight? Because I can look at like how long did they spend on the site? What was the conversion rate? What was the ASP of things they bought? And that's hard to measure. If they looked at 5 things, was it delightful or was that annoying because they had to look at 5 things to find the thing they want? If I'm dealing with a team interaction, how do I think about managing anxiety? Well, going back first part, like if I'm start seeing them as people, and one of my questions would be like, what do you think you're great at that could be useful to us here at work that we're not asking you to do? And when I'm focusing on a role of job descriptions, like we still have to get our objectives done. But if I'm focused on a role of job description, asking people to be a cog versus like, hey, how are you wired up and where do you perform your best? And like I get some amazing initiative out of people. Like, yeah, we had to do this new feature on the Amazon site, but this thing's really bothering me. I know it bugs a bunch of other engineers on my team. I'm like, you know what? And this younger kid, this is 20-something young kid who's like, yeah, I see it. And he was cocky. He's like, I can do it. If I just had 2 days, I could do it. I'm like, all right, here's the deal. You're gonna be sick the next 2 days. And you're gonna be sick in that conference room in the building next door. If you do get it done, you're not going to have ticket duty was kind of painful. Like I got to deal with these bugs. I'm like, you're going to have a week where you don't have to do ticket duty. But if you don't get it done in 2 days, you're going to have 4 weeks of ticket duty. So do you want to bet on yourself? He's like, yeah, I'll try, but can I have 3 days? I'm like, sure. You're going to be sick for 3 days in that conference room over there. And he got 95% of the way, and 95% is not 100. So we actually negotiated, and he had like 3 weeks of ticket duty instead of 4. But it also sent a tone to the rest of the team. Like if they had ideas, could they bring them to me?
Yeah.
How did I create like you get more of what you subsidize and less of what you penalize. And so am I subsidizing or penalizing people bringing initiative ideas? Am I subsidizing or penalizing people bringing me bad news? Right? How am I going to react? Am I going to add anxiety when people bring me bad news? The website crashed last night again, and Jeff's not really happy. And so that's all in the emotional realm.
Yeah.
And so both self-regulating my own emotion, but also how am I as a leader helping with the team by recognizing them as people and asking them and inviting them or not. Right. I'm not good at it. The more I look at it and the more I go, man, there's so many ways I can get better.
So a worker that sees a system, he's unhappy where he's at, he's thinking of doing his own thing, and he really wants to try it. Like, what do you say to that guy? What does he look for? Does he go for it?
I would have a meeting with my key leaders, and I'd try to push this down about once a year. And I would tell them 2 things that were counterintuitive. Like, first thing I would say is like, I believe my role is to help you meet your career goals, hopefully working on our team, hopefully working at our company, and if not, somewhere else. I would like you to look at other jobs once or twice a year. And you want me to look around? Like, absolutely. Because but the reason why I want to do it is because I want to be honest to my statement of you meeting your career goals. And I want you to look around to see what might be attractive to you. Because one, we can probably change your job here a little bit. So I want to have a conversation with you after. And I want you to commit to me that you'll talk to me at least 6 to 8 weeks before you would think about jumping to another job, even before you apply.
Yeah.
Because we can probably change your job at least a little bit to get some of your career goals and still meet our team objectives. And then second, there's probably going to be something that's attractive to you that I can't meet on my team. I can't. So I had one guy come in and he's like, I really want to take my family on an overseas experience. And I'm like, I don't have any overseas teams, but there are others at Amazon. If we can finish this goal and help me write your job description for your backfill, let's get you, I'll make introductions to you and I'll help you find. And so I introduced some of my peers. I'm like, great. And they're like, wow, a generous leader is giving us a highly qualified person. We're going to lose the person. Like, there's no real, not being that generous. And I think for young guys, thinking in terms of small business, I don't know if they've counted the cost. Right. And so I would, again, back to my world, I would see engineers that have been an engineer for 4 or 5 years, like, I want to be an engineer manager. And so I'm like, you know what? I don't know if you know always, but go back, let's show you, not tell you. I'm going to give you 2 people reporting to you. We're not going to make you a full manager. You're going to own this project. Is it really you want to be a manager? Are you trying to get manager skills? Is that your career direction? Or is it really you want more say in what you and a couple other people do and how it gets done? And so we trial it. And I was probably about 50-50. Some people were like, yes, I want more of this. And others were like, yeah, you're right. I don't want this. So I'd apply that small business of like, well, what's attractive to you, but you want to go start your own thing? Is it pride? You want to have your brand? You want to work for Reforged instead of Forged because you think that's a cooler name? Or you want to work for Foundry instead of Forged, you think it's a cooler name and you want to have a brand? Or is it, no, this is on a career path of you want to launch yourself? Because if it is, I'll help you manage that. But have you really counted the cost? Have you read Profit First? Are you practicing? Are you ready to be successful hanging out your shingles your own thing?
Or a failure.
Or fail.
And you'd bet a lot on it.
Yeah. So to that end, if I can manage that relationship well, and the right thing for them and for me is for them to go do their own thing, or the right thing for them is to do their own thing, and I just, I'm generous and not selfish to accept that, then can I, does that create a path back? That they failed or something else in life changed and they don't want to be that anymore. Great. Like, we left on good terms. We have a good relationship. So that person I sent overseas, I'm like, just so you know, I'm going to keep calling you when I have something I think is great for you. And they ended up working for me again. I hired a guy that we, 6 months after, we had all turned him down. We thought he was great, but we couldn't extend an offer for the role we were at. And there's like one gap. Called him 6 months. We have a new role. Did we totally turn you off to ever working here? And he was like, no, actually, I thought it was great that you didn't put me in a scenario for my failure, and I would be open to talking. He came in, we hired him, he became a superstar, promoted twice in 3 years, kind of thing. So can I, again, see people as people? How selfish am I going to be? How much can I invest in their success? So you think you want to go off? Well, there's probably a lot of questions. Do you want to be my shadow for 3 months and take a reduction in pay because I'm not going to pay for your learning? But do you want to see what it's actually like?
Yeah.
Can develop people. If you think you're ready to go on your own shingle, great. Count the cost.
Okay. Well,
because maybe you should just try it.
I
Go
think
try
so.
and fail.
I think
Or
that's
go
the
try
best
and
thing
win.
is- Yeah, we should definitely try, right? You don't be afraid to fail, and we need more young men like that.
Yeah, doesn't it? Because that gets to the think big. You have a big risk tolerance, and I think the thing we haven't mentioned yet, abundance mentality.
Yeah.
Like,
The world is the Lord's.
Well, and more people working, it's not a close pie. Like,
Yeah.
it will probably generate more abundance, not
Yes.
less.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, let's touch on that because that is a huge weed in our young generation. Is
I need my share.
the notion of there's only so much energy in the world, and it's a pie,
Yes.
right? There's only so much dollars in the world, and it's a pie, and I need my slice, and I gotta take some of yours, right? Like that is deeply embedded in us.
Yes.
How do we as Christians understand prosperity, work to get done, all of it?
What I've come to is a couple things, and I was renewed in this by a story just a couple months ago. First is all the cattle, everything. Like, read your Bible, it's all God's, right? So I've already said, like, hey, it's all God's. And the second thing I've said is, are you qualified for it, right? So are you working at qualified? But then it's about, again, when you're working on a farm, you see, like, great, it's going to compost. Like, it's all going somewhere in circle. We grew this stuff, the crop failed, but it went to compost and enriched the soil. Maybe it's going to work out a year from now. I do think there's some practical things. Look where the customers are, look where the money is, and how can you serve people. Trying to invent something out of nothing will probably fail for most people. But can I provide a valuable service that blesses somebody? And I had a couple of young guys. Seattle's a hard place to start as a young person. Median house price in Woodinville, Washington, something like $600,000. And you want to send your kid to a Christian school, and that's got a bunch of money, and you're like, so how do I get started there? Like, how can I even afford to be here? I'm 22 years old. How to do it? Well, if there's a lot of money there, there's probably a service you provide. And these three young men said, you know what? These people have these $600,000, $1 million houses, and they're 2 stories tall, these tall windows. There's nobody washing the windows. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of rain in Seattle. Roofs need to be maintained. 40-year roof, yeah, it's if you take the moss off and deal with your gutters and everything else. You know what? We can provide that service. And those people are probably willing to pay a premium for it. And they've got a great business started because they didn't get proud and go, we have to go work at some name brand place, or we need, and they actually, all three of them have college degrees because they're adept at finance, and they're using their college degree in a different way than maybe someone anticipated. They didn't get a finance degree and go work at some bank. They're using it to run their small business and be super smart with money, but they're serving people. And they saw the need, and they started with people. And they said, there's a lot of money in the houses around here. So how could we fulfill a need? And have built a great business around it. And so I think that where can I provide a service? And especially young people I advantage because they're willing to do things a different way. And they often know it better than old people. They know GPT better than I do. They know drones better than I do. They know, just different ways of working that if they're willing to take the risk and look to serve a bunch of people, but if they're thinking about productivity, and C.R. Wiley's, man of the house, or one's like, again, are you willing to be productive? You are an enterprise. You've already started your own business, so you may have 2 jobs or 3 jobs. Never in my life have I ever had 1 job. Because I'm working for Haney Enterprises, and even if I'm an employee and working at Amazon, I've probably got a couple things I'm incubating, or I'm serving some other customers. I've always had, and it's not a side hustle. It's just, are there places I can be productive?
It's you.
To tag an income stream to an expense that I have, or to learn something to get me qualified for the next thing that God may open the door for me to do.
Right.
And can I do that to serve people? So if I'm a young person, great. Look for the need that's valuable to people in a way they're willing to pay money for. And get yourself qualified, and then ask and try. And if you believe in an agricultural cycle and a building cycle, the productivity generates, or that efforts can generate fruit. It may not be the time you want. It may not be the way you think. But that's the abundance mentality.
That's right.
Right. Even when you fail on the house or a job, the only failure is failure to learn.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So what can you harvest out of that? I was associated with the Amazon Fire Phone. I got to see that as a big failure, but that turned into Alexa. The learnings out of that and the training effort that people did at Amazon became Alexa, which may or may not be a failure, but a lot of customers use it. Mm-hmm. And that turned into something that was reusable.
Well, I appreciate that conversation. How can people follow you, look you up, reach out to you?
Yeah, I can be pretty active on LinkedIn on the business side of things. So I haven't been posting a ton recently because I've been deep into a couple startup businesses and projects, but that's the best place to follow me and find things that might be useful on LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, thanks for the conversation.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate being here.
Do you want to introduce the baseball at some convenient point, or do you want me to ask about it?
You're welcome to ask, or there's no magical significance. It's just my adult fidget spinner toy.
I love it.
And
Okay.
I'm usually just walking around thinking.
I was like,
I'm
is
throwing
this
the
Stefan
ball.
Haney? For
I was
sure,
already thinking I want to
he has.
a little shot of that at the end of this. So that I
It
can
gives
have
the
that.
video guys motion. It gives them emotion.
There's
moment
no
in
way
the
there's
interview.
not something
They love
significant
it.
about this baseball with Stefan.
It's good.